Something is happening right now, and I mean right now, as in the last 24 hours. 3 earthquakes, 3 completely different locations: Nevada, Ottawa, Australia. And guys, I have to say, when I looked at the data this morning, I had to look at it twice because these are not normal earthquake zones hitting at the same time. This is not the Ring of Fire doing what it always does. This is something different. This is the ground shaking in places people don't expect, places that are supposed to be stable. And the pattern that is emerging, well, let me show you what I'm seeing, because I'm on the pulse for you guys. And this needs to be said. Let's start with the number that got my attention first. At 6:29 p.m. on Monday evening, a magnitude 5.7 earthquake struck near Silver Springs, Nevada, just east of Reno. By 8:25 in the morning on Tuesday, the Nevada Seismological Laboratory had already recorded at least 120 aftershocks, 17 of them over magnitude 3. 120 aftershocks, guys. Let that sink in. And then, less than 18 hours later, while Nevada was still shaking, a magnitude 3.9 earthquake struck at 12:36 p.m. near Shawville, Quebec. And it was felt in Ottawa, Eastern Ontario, Montreal, and Toronto, the nation's capital of Canada. Felt across 4 cities simultaneously. And then, halfway around the planet, while people in Ottawa were still talking about it, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake hit at 8:19 p.m. local time near Orange in central west New South Wales, Australia, only 5 kilometer deep. And Geoscience Australia received more than 2,000 reports of tremors, felt hundreds of kilometers away. 3 earthquakes, Nevada, Ottawa, Australia, same 24-hour window. And that, guys, is what we have to talk about. Now, before we go deeper, and we will go much deeper, let me give you the full picture of each one, because the details matter. They always matter. Nevada first. The earthquake was centered 12.9 miles east of Silver Springs at a depth of just 3.1 miles, barely below the surface. Video shot in Fallon showed shattered glass and food scattered across the floor in the aisles of a grocery store. Shattered glass in the grocery store from a 5.7. The magnitude was significant enough that it triggered a shake alert warning across the region, and the USGS rated its intensity at level 6 on the Mercalli scale, meaning it was felt by all residents, many of them frightened. All residents, every single person in that area felt it. Nevada is the 3rd most seismically active state in the United States, following only California and Alaska. So earthquakes happen there. Yes, but here's what I found that made me sit up straight. The Nevada Seismological Laboratory confirmed there is no known fault at this exact location. But the epicenter was only 12 miles north of the epicenter of the region's last big earthquake, a magnitude 5.7 that struck in December 2024. No known fault. Same zone hitting twice in 16 months. And the NSL said it clearly. There is an elevated risk of a larger earthquake following this one. They're deploying special aftershock monitoring stations right now as we speak. Now Ottawa. People across Ottawa, Fitzroy Harbor, Richmond, Constance Bay, Pembroke, and Otter Lake, Quebec, all reported feeling it. Vibrations in buildings, loud banging sounds, ground rumbling for 15 to 20 seconds. The building was vibrating and it sounded like a large truck going by at the beginning, one resident told CTV News. Another said it felt like a huge earthquake. And guys, this is Ottawa we're talking about, Canada's capital, Parliament. Cameras live streaming the House of Commons captured the exact moment the earthquake rattled the building, the camera visibly shaking while parliamentarians debated. I mean, if that doesn't wake you up, the Canadian Parliament itself shook. And in Australia, the Orange, New South Wales earthquake, a senior seismologist at Geoscience Australia, Dr. Phil Cummins, described it as a large earthquake for this area. Only 5 quakes had been recorded within 50 kilometers of the site since 1977, and the previous one of similar size was a 4.3 magnitude back in 2017. The last one was in 2017, and now it's shaking again, felt hundreds of kilometers away. Can I give you a personal moment here? Because when I first saw the Nevada footage, the grocery store with shattered glass scattered everywhere, products thrown off shelves, people looking around in shock, I thought about the woman sitting with her daughter doing homework. Trina and Lo was sitting with one of her daughters doing homework in their dining room when the quake hit. You could hear the rumbling just coming before it even got to us, she said. The shaking continued for about a minute. A full minute of shaking. That doesn't sound long, until it's happening to you, until the walls are moving, until the sound arrives before the shaking, that deep rumble coming toward you through the ground. And then there's this, and I love this detail, a seismologist at the University of Nevada, Reno, named Kyron Bogalub, was at home when the earthquake hit. Her newborn baby, Rory, only 11 weeks old, cried on the floor next to her as she felt the rolling waves of the quake. She knew immediately it was a big one. The earthquake expert's own newborn baby felt it. She said she knew, just by how it felt, that it was significant. But here's what gets me more. The University of Nevada Medical School had scheduled an earthquake preparedness drill for Tuesday morning, the day after. It was very interesting timing to have an earthquake like that happen just one day before we had a training. A medical student named Ozzy Tavares said, "I think it made us all take it a lot more seriously." Right, the earthquake came first, then the drill, in that order, as if the earth itself sent the warning. And up in Canada, in Ottawa, people standing in offices and kitchens, feeling their buildings shake, thousands of reports flooding into Earthquakes Canada within minutes. And in Australia, over 2,000 reports from regular people saying, "Yes, I felt it. Yes, the ground moved." 3 different countries, 3 different moments, all within 24 hours. Guys, if you found this interesting so far, do me a favor. Give this an early like and a hype. Share it with someone who needs to see this. Leave me a comment telling me, where are you watching from? Are you in Nevada, Ottawa, Australia? Did you feel any of this? That helps the channel enormously, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Now let's get into the real question, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Why these 3 places? What is actually going on? Okay, let's break this down, because you might be thinking, earthquakes happen all the time all over the world. The USGS detects roughly 55 earthquakes per day globally. And you're right, but the question I always ask is, what kind of earthquakes? And where? And that's what makes this 24-hour window unusual. Let's start with Nevada. Nevada's seismic activity is concentrated in western and central parts of the state, along a feature called the Walker Lane Belt, a major shear zone that accommodates between 15 and 25% of the relative movement between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates. So Nevada is not quiet geology. It sits on an active, stretching, cracking continental crust. The Basin and Range Province, the vast geological feature underneath Nevada, is a zone where continental crust is actively being pulled apart in an east to west direction, causing the Earth's crust to thin and fracture. Being pulled apart, right now, every year. The ground beneath Nevada is literally stretching like warm dough, and when crust stretches, it breaks. Those breaks are faults, and faults release energy. But here's what makes this specific event strange. There is no known fault at this exact epicenter location. LA 5.7 earthquake, 120 aftershocks, and no mapped fault underneath it. That tells you one of 2 things. Either this is happening on a previously unknown fault, which is not unusual, we find new ones all the time, or something deeper is shifting in ways that aren't following known structures. And the seismologists are watching it very closely right now. Now let's talk about Ottawa, because this one, guys, this one really surprised me. Most people think Canada is stable. You think Canada, you think ice, hockey, maple syrup. You do not think earthquake zone. But here's what I found when I did a little research. The Ottawa Valley sits inside something called the Western Quebec Seismic Zone, a seismically active area stretching from Montreal to Temiskaming and from Cornwall along the Laurentian Mountains. Between 1980 and 2000 alone, there were 16 earthquakes stronger than magnitude 4.0 in this zone. The zone averages about 1 seismic event every 5 days. 1 event every 5 days. People in Ottawa don't know this. Most Canadians don't know this. Their capital city sits on an active seismic zone. And why does this zone shake? The seismicity likely results mainly from the reactivation of inherited structures. Ancient Precambrian fault systems and rift zones formed hundreds of millions of years ago, now being stressed under the present-day tectonic stress field. Ancient faults waking up under a modern city. And the historical record here is sobering. Significant earthquakes in this zone include a magnitude 6.2 in Temiskaming in 1935, and a magnitude 5.7 in Cornwall, Messina in 1944, a 6.2 in 1935, right in this same zone. And the 2010 earthquake, a magnitude 5.0 north of Ottawa, was felt all the way into Maryland, Michigan, New York, Ohio, and Vermont. One earthquake in Canada felt in 5 American states. That's the scale of this zone. Now Australia. This one is different again. Geoscience Australia's Dr. Phil Cummins called it a large earthquake for this area. Only 5 quakes had been detected within 50 kilometers of the site since 1977, with the previous similar one back in 2017. Australia is generally considered one of the most stable continental plates on Earth. It's far from any plate boundary. There are no major subduction zones nearby, no ring of fire directly involved, and yet the ground near Orange, New South Wales shook hard enough for 2,000 people to immediately file reports, and to be felt hundreds of kilometers away. That is intraplate seismicity. Earthquakes happening not at the edge of plates, but in the middle. And this, guys, is what connects all 3 events: Nevada, Ottawa, Australia. All 3 of these are intraplate earthquakes, or earthquakes on ancient, inherited fault systems that are far from the classic active margins. They all exist in what scientists call stable continental regions, areas that are not supposed to shake this much, but they do. Let me give you some historical perspective, because I always like to dig back, not just weeks, not just years, decades, because the real story is always in the past. Nevada, December 2024. The region's last big earthquake before this week was a magnitude 5.7 that struck in December 2024, only 12 miles south of where this week's quake hit, almost exactly the same location, a year and a half apart, same zone activating twice. That is a pattern. And historically, Nevada has produced enormous earthquakes. The 1915 Pleasant Valley earthquake was magnitude 7.3. The 1932 Cedar Mountain quake was magnitude 7.2. In 1954, 2 massive earthquakes struck the same area within 4 minutes of each other, a 7.1 and a 6.9 back-to-back. This is not a geologically quiet state. Ottawa and the Western Quebec seismic zone, the historical record here, goes back centuries. Significant earthquakes associated with this zone include the 1732 Montreal earthquake, the 1935 Timiskaming earthquake, the 1944 Cornwall-Massena earthquake, and the 2010 Central Canada earthquake. The 1732 earthquake, nearly 300 years ago. This zone has been active for centuries. And scientists believe some of what we're seeing today may be extraordinarily long-lived aftershocks of ancient events. Stress that has been propagating through the crust for hundreds or even thousands of years. Think about that. The ground in Ottawa may still be responding to something that happened before Canada even existed as a country. And Australia, the New South Wales record shows only a handful of earthquakes near this area in the past 50 years. But the Australian plate itself, while stable, is not motionless. It moves northward at roughly 7 centimeters per year, one of the fastest moving continental plates on Earth. And when you have a plate moving that fast, stress builds in unexpected places, in the interior, away from the edges, and eventually something releases. Now here's the question I know you're all asking. Are these 3 earthquakes connected? Is this a global pattern? I want to be honest with you here, because I always am. And I want to give you the nuanced answer, not the sensational one. The direct answer is probably not in the way you're thinking. These 3 earthquakes are not caused by each other. Nevada did not trigger Ottawa. Ottawa did not trigger Australia. The distances are too vast. The mechanisms are too different. But here's what is real, and this is the part that matters. When we zoom out, when we look at the global picture, what we are seeing in this 24-hour window reflects something scientists have been saying for years. Our most dangerous future earthquake risk is not just on the ring of fire. It's in the stable continental interiors, in places people never prepare for. On April 14th alone, global seismic activity included a magnitude 7.0 or higher event, 3 magnitude 6.0 or higher events, 91 magnitude 5.0 or higher events, and 706 magnitude 4.0 or higher events worldwide. 706 earthquakes of magnitude 4 or higher in one day. The planet is never still. It is always moving, always adjusting. And on this particular day, in a 24-hour stretch, 3 of those adjustments happened in places that catch people completely off guard. A nation's capital in Canada. The third most seismic US state, on a fault nobody knew was there. And the supposedly stable Australian continent. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The infrastructure risk in Ottawa is enormous. The urban areas of both Montreal and Ottawa-Gatineau sit directly inside the Western Quebec seismic zone. Ottawa, federal government buildings, national archives, nuclear facilities nearby, water treatment systems. None of it was built with a 6.2 magnitude earthquake in mind. The 1935 earthquake in this zone reached 6.2. It could happen again. And in Nevada, they're deploying extra seismic monitoring right now because of an elevated risk of something larger. The NSL said it themselves. Elevated risk of a larger earthquake. And in Australia, a continent where most people genuinely believe earthquakes are someone else's problem, 2,000 people just had to reconsider that assumption. So what do the authorities say? What happens next? For Nevada, the Nevada Seismological Laboratory is monitoring intensively right now. They are deploying rapid deployment aftershock monitoring stations. Special seismic equipment that can be activated quickly to increase coverage near the main shock location. They say aftershocks will be frequent in the next few days and can continue for months. Months, not days. Months of continued aftershocks in western Nevada. And with an elevated risk of a larger earthquake following this one, experts are watching very carefully. What I would watch next for Nevada is the aftershock sequence. Does it continue to build? Do we see any magnitude 4 or above aftershocks clustering in a new location that suggests a different fault segment is activating? That would be a concern. For Ottawa, the earthquake took place within the larger Western Quebec seismic zone. Seismologist Michael Courage noted this occurred in roughly the same location where a magnitude 5.2 struck in 2013. And that normally damage starts around magnitude 5. That's important. The 2013 event was 5.2, this week's was 3.9, but it was felt across 4 major cities simultaneously. So even a moderate earthquake in this zone has extraordinary reach. What to watch in Ottawa? Are there any additional events clustering near Shawville in the coming days? Because the zone averages 1 seismic event every 5 days. The clock is already ticking on the next one. For Australia, Dr. Cummins expected aftershocks, but lighter ones felt in a smaller area. The depth was only 5 km, extremely shallow, and the location near the Cadia gold mine is worth watching for follow-up activity. A shallow earthquake near a major mining operation. That's worth paying attention to. Mining operations can sometimes interact with existing geological stress, and the proximity to the mine is something Geoscience Australia will be analyzing carefully. So guys, what does this all mean? It means this. The Earth does not care about borders. It doesn't care if you live in a capital city or a quiet rural valley. It doesn't care if your country has never had a major earthquake before. The planet beneath our feet is always moving, always adjusting, always releasing stress it has been storing for years, decades, sometimes centuries. And what happened in these 24 hours? Nevada at 6:29 in the evening, Ottawa at 12:36 in the afternoon, Australia at 8:19 at night, is a reminder that when we talk about earthquake risk, we cannot only look at the obvious places. We have to look at the quiet places, the places that haven't shaken in a while, because sometimes that's exactly where the stress has been quietly building. The Nevada Seismological Lab says the risk of something larger is elevated. The Western Quebec seismic zone produces a seismic event every 5 days. Australia just had its largest earthquake in that specific area since 2017. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because you deserve to know. You deserve the full picture, not just the Ring of Fire, not just Japan or Indonesia or Chile. The ground under Ottawa, the ground under Nevada, the ground under New South Wales, Australia, all of it moves. And in the last 24 hours, it proved that. If you've been here for the whole video, thank you so much. It means a lot. There are more videos in the end screen. I've covered earthquakes, glaciers, landslides, volcanoes, all of it interconnected. Click through, explore, stay informed. If you want to support the channel, you can join or buy me a coffee. Link is in the description. I don't want to push any brand here, just a coffee. That keeps the voice going. Stay safe, guys. Be aware. look up, look down, and know what's happening beneath your feet. Bye-bye.